6 things people with anxiety do that comes across as rude by the.anxiety.doc as posted on Instagram. Number 1, you act distant and are sometimes considered aloof. Number 2, you set rigid boundaries. Number 3, you say no to a lot of things. 4, you often don't respond to calls or texts. Number 5, you cancel plans at the last minute. Number 6, you leave events early. Anxiety manifests in a wide variety of ways. People with anxiety are often hyper-connected to the energy around them, which causes them to act in a way that can appear inappropriate or even rude to others. It is important to remember when they do this, they are merely reacting to their symptoms. Hello and welcome to Tuesday's episode of the Toya Talks podcast. My name is Toya Washington. For those of you who are reoccurring listeners, welcome, thank you. And you guys know how much I love you. And those of you who are listening to for the first time, or maybe you've just stumbled across this podcast episode, welcome to the Toya Talks family, where we congregate here every Tuesday. We speak on the things that need to be spoken about. We have honest and safe conversation, and more importantly, we centre ourselves, Black women. Listen, you see how this opener dragged me, and again, I may plan an episode, I may work on an episode, and I will deliver the episode eventually. Sometimes the ancestors guide me to talk about certain things before maybe something I've scheduled to talk about, or there'll be, like, for instance, last week has been so, oh my God, it's been so creatively rejuvenating, because I've been able to kind of put myself in a space whereby I'm writing a lot more notes, I'm doing a lot more treatments for future episodes, I'm very centered in myself. And when I read this post on Instagram, I can't even lie to you, I felt very seen, I felt relieved, and I feel as though people assume that because I do public speaking, because I act like a clown on Instagram stories, because I was on Big Brother UK, because I had this whole life of before where I was going to Nigeria, I was doing public speaking, public events, hosting shows and everything, and over here as well, that the assumption is, oh, you're too outgoing to have any form of social anxiety. And I can understand why somebody would make that assumption, because I don't give, like, my profession, what I do doesn't give off that. But to know me is to know that I do suffer from social anxiety. And something happened recently and it really bothered me, because when I was in it, I couldn't really come out of it. And then I was able to look back at it and I was mortified. So I want to talk about that. And I think it's important, especially from the perspective of the world of work as well, because there's so many situations, especially remote working or even just face-to-face, as people are in offices and effectively, you know, some of you never left, you were always going in. So I think it's important that we talk about social anxiety. It's not something that I've spoken about before, partly because I don't think I was ever ready, and I think I had to make peace with what my social anxiety meant to me and where it started, because I think social anxiety always starts from somewhere, and I needed to get to the origins of it. So that's what this episode is about. But as we start every episode, before we go into the meat of this podcast episode, talk about a couple of things that have been happening, maybe happening in the news, happening from a societal perspective, or something that I watched, and we talk about it. And then we kind of ease ourselves in to the meat and the flesh and the realness of this episode. So you guys know I watch The Real Housewives of Potomac, because for me, seeing Black women, rich Black women celebrated, and even, albeit in the form of a reality show, is always something I'm here for. And The Real Housewives of Potomac really speaks to me, and I think it's just because I can relate to Wendy, Karen, Hugo, Wendy Osafo. Those are my two favourite characters. Wendy is, like, by far my number one, by the way. this week is the reunion of the recent episode, and Wendy came swinging with from the gate. Like, Wendy has a bat. She has a file. she is the lecturer. Okay, she is the lecturer. She ain't gonna miss a beat, and she's really dragging. And she hasn't started from the edges. She started from the back of the hair. Just the back, the pippa grains. She started from there to drag people. And then she's going to move to the front, drag everybody. And Giselle, I've spoken about her before. You guys know how I feel about her. But it was the irony of when Ray Hugo, who is Karen Hugo's husband, was going through like some tax issues. You can see that Karen, like, this was like a few seasons ago, you can see that Karen was really embarrassed, she was confused, and remembering that these women don't have a choice in what they bring to the episode. Like, they have to bring what is current and what will keep them paid. So there are no hiding from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the way Karen has been dragged and humiliated by each of the women and age shamed and all types of disrespect, things have come full circle, isn't it? In the sense that Giselle really dragged Ray in a way that was so disrespectful and so mean towards Karen. And even like had a t-shirt made that basically called Ray Uncle Ben, all of this stuff. Like, I don't know what it is with Giselle and this air of colorism about her. Like, she's always teetering on the edge of colorism, and it makes me uncomfortable. And this I don't know, she has this warped sense of reality, in that she feels that she can talk about people's lives, she can drag them, she can humiliate and embarrass them. God forbid you do the same to her. She will start taking this moral high ground of how dare you, and it's just a load of bullshit. Anyway, in coming full circle, her ex-husband, who cheated on her, had multiple children on her, and she ended up going back to him. Yeah, that very same man owes the IRS. So those of you in the UK, it's the equivalent of HMRC, $800,000. Now, when this was brought up, I think it was Andy Cohen, who is the messiest mess of the messiest. And he basically brought it up. And we see Karen basically say to Giselle, you were married to Jamal at the time, so I understand, and I'm in it, and I was in it, and therefore I'm telling you that you need to go and get a lawyer, because so far as you two are married, they can come for your ass. And she's talking from a position of somebody who is currently married to somebody who had tax issues. So she's not talking from a malicious space or an assumption space. She's talking from a place of experience. And Giselle has this poker face, and it's almost laced with this, I don't know, she just doesn't come across to me as a nice person. She's very artificial to me. And I thought, wow, even if Karen was being shady in that moment, the reality is at one point, Giselle was making Ray's tax issues the laughing stock of an episode. She had a t-shirt done, she had hashtags, it was disgusting. And to think that her ex-husband, who was then her boyfriend after he became her ex-husband, the same man who had kids on her, cheated on her, got back with her again, and then cheated on her again, is now having tax issues with the IRS. She thinks that she's completely precluded from any type of connection to it, despite not appreciating and accepting that you were married to him at the same time, that this, like, at the time in which the tax issues arose, you were married to him. And therefore, as a married couple, they are able to pursue you jointly. And American law is very clear about that. And it's karma, isn't it? It's karma in that you're laughing at other people who are down on their luck, who are going through difficult times. But no condition is permanent. And there comes a time where you may find yourself in that very same position that you laughed at somebody else in. And it ain't so funny. Because when it was brought up and she was challenged, her face looked like thunder. But honey, you caused a storm a few seasons ago. I really don't like Giselle. I don't like her energy. She has a very... she's got a very Kenya Moore type of energy. And Kenya is the most toxic housewife I've ever seen in my entire life. And Giselle's not too far behind, to be honest. Also as well, I do want to talk about Molly May and what's unfortunately happened with her. So those of you who don't know who Molly May is, she is a reality TV star. She was on Love Island in the UK, became very popular. She used to have a YouTube channel. I say used to, but she had a YouTube channel before that was reasonably successful, and then basically Love Island catapulted her career. She is, I think, one of the creative directors, or the creative director of Pretty Little Thing. And to be fair to Molly May, she's done really, really, really well. And what I love about her, and I watch her vlogs, I love her authenticity, I love her business savviness, I love her consistency and her honesty, her ability to bring herself. And she has made a lot of money in a short space of time through her creativity and also staying true to who she is. And I love that. I love that she never forgets where she came from insofar as where she started, i.e. YouTube. And she is a multi-millionaire at the end of the day. What happened recently is she and her boyfriend, who is Tommy Tyson Fury's younger brother, they were robbed. Luckily, they were not in the house. They were in London, but their house in, is it Cheshire? I don't know. I think it's Cheshire. I don't know why I want to say Cheshire. Was robbed. And they basically, the robbers, it was a professional job, and they ransacked her house. And, you know, she hasn't returned back. They've moved out, and, you know, it was all over in the UK media. And today she released a vlog, and she basically spoke about it again. So much respect for her, and she was really honest about the fact that she takes responsibility for how much she shared on the vlogs and how much of her life she shares, even as far as people know where she lives, and having to therefore hire security and being too open in sharing, which she basically alluded to may have led people to feel comfortable enough to do certain things because she put her life on public display. And I completely felt very grateful for that level of transparency and honesty, especially because you guys know I'm vlogging and I've got a lot of content to edit, by the way. And I've often battled with kind of how much I share and things like that. But now I'm kind of returning to YouTube, if you like, rebranding, and I'm going to be vlogging. And my audience is a lot bigger than what it was when I was last on YouTube. And also as well, I think I'm a lot more open than I used to be, and open to an extent, right? So the door's not wide open, but more open enough to feel comfortable about vlogging. But what Molly May has done in sharing kind of her feelings, her experiences, being robbed, and how that happened, and how she's done the introspection, has also given me opportunity to kind of make sure that I police how much I share. So, for example, Molly May was asked if she's going to do a house tour, and she says, no, I'm not. And I'm so glad that she was that honest, because I won't be doing a house tour. If you think you're ever going to get a house tour from me, or it's going to be a flat tour, but I wouldn't do one. Because also as well, I have to consider the fact that Kay isn't on social media like that. You know, he isn't like a personality in that sense. And Kay is extremely private. I'm private, but Kay is extremely private. And in order to kind of respect his privacy and also maintain the integrity of us and our home, I definitely will not be doing room tours. You'll see me in a room, but I will not be touring that room, because, you know, who's buying tickets to tour my house that I own? Like, why am I doing that? So it's about striking the balance, I think, as well. I think, especially if you're a content creator, striking the balance between kind of showing your life enough for people to connect without having to expose everything and basically compromise your safety. So I definitely feel as though I'm going to be employing a lot of what she said, and I feel very vindicated, because I already was kind of feeling very torn about the whole house tour, and, you know, here's my front gate, and, you know, sometimes you do things you don't even realise you're doing them in the spirit of kind of openness. But I feel like you can still be open enough for people to connect without revealing everything. And there are certain parts of my life that are completely off bounds. But I would like to think that through the vlog, you will just get to know me a bit more, and it will be an opportunity for people to connect with the Toy Talks brand. Those people who don't know what Toy Talks is, they'll get introduced to the brand and to the podcast. But I need to reach as many black women as possible so that they're aware that there is a podcast that's going to guide, teach, support, and motivate them as they navigate the world of work, and hopefully then highlight the path of their success, and also to talk about life things, and know that there is a podcast that is basically giving you the tools to understand and know how to navigate the world of work, which are, you know, are dominated a lot by oppression and systematic oppression of black women. Understanding what the tools look like and how to use them, that is so important to me. So I came out my comfort zone from Snapchat, where Toya Talks was born, to do a podcast, and that was almost 2 years ago, and it's actually 2 years on the 1st of January. So then to get to a point now where I'm coming back to YouTube, it feels like another milestone for me as part of the journey of Toya Talks. So big shout out to Molly May for her honesty and her transparency, and also as well big respect for being honest, staying true to herself, and being able to create a business that is not only a viable business but has made her millions and continues to make her millions. I respect her business acumen. I respect her hard work and her consistency. And she's really young. She's like 21 or something. I can't remember how old she is, but she's in her early 20s. And she's done really, really well. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that, because also as well, I think that also pertains to the world of work and how much we share with our colleagues. Now, while you may not risk being robbed by your colleagues, I think it's also about how much you share and how much people feel comfortable to kind of be able to have opinions about your life. And I've often spoken about the need to maintain your privacy to an extent when it comes to work, and not allow people to have access to you or use your social media against you or weaponize how you live your life outside of work. We know that work and the world of work and society as a whole is laced with stereotypes, and they're usually racial stereotypes based on racial prejudice. So why would you then give people access to that part of your life if you already know that there are preconceived ideas about us as black women? And we have to navigate differently to other races, because as black women we understand that we're not often picked, if at all, underrepresented, underappreciated and overlooked. So it's important that we maintain our own safety and police our ability to share, and knowing how much to share and how far you can go is really important. And that's the messaging that I took from Molly May. So I'm so grateful, because during Black History Month, I think for anyone who's a public speaker and activist, it's probably our busiest month. And I've done a total of 4 talks, 2 remote, 2 in person, one of which was a panel, and the other one was my first university, which was Kingston University Students' Union. So I'm really, really proud of that, and it's been a busy. And to that end as well, one of the organisations that I did a presentation for has actually asked to license one of my presentations that I did, and part of it is the ability for them to use that. And they asked to buy it from me, and I said no, my intellectual property is not for sale, but I can license it to you, which means that I still maintain control over my content, and I'm able to reproduce it as much as I like. But in order for them to use it, they have to pay for the privilege to. And I say privilege because it's a privilege as black women when we go into organisations and we share our experiences and we unpack our trauma to be able to educate others. And I work really hard on my presentations, and I create because I know that the learning is so important, and I know how much time is invested in it. So when somebody wants to license something from me, not only do I see it as a huge honour, but I also see it as a business opportunity to license this and be making residual income from it by doing that. So really excited about that. It's my first license that I've done, and I'm able to draft my own license agreement because of my legal background, and obviously I work as a commercial contract consultant. So I'm happy that I don't have to pay lawyers to do it. If I wanted to, I do have a lawyer that looks after like my affairs and stuff that I could go to and pay them to do it. But I feel like this is part and parcel of what I do. Like, part of being a business is also allowing me to kind of draw on my skills and keep as much as I can in-house, and recognizing that if I need help, I can tap that in. So really happy about that. So I wanted to share that and hopefully encourage you guys, because when we talk about business, I think when people talk about business, sometimes they focus on kind of the stereotypical business, right? So how, like a production of something, and people don't really focus on some of the other ways people do business. And I'm going to bring that to the podcast episodes. There's an episode that is really special that I'm bringing, and I'm talking about business and kind of having a side hustle, how to turn a side hustle into a business effectively, because I think that's kind of what I've done. And then being able to understand how you continue to kind of develop that business, and where I get to work with different organisations, and I've worked with some phenomenal organisations, I definitely always think about, okay, how else can I add value? And the licensing is a good way to do it, because it, like I said, it's residual income, and I still maintain the intellectual property of my content, but also as well recognising that that's another stream of business, that's another area of business that I do want to explore. So 2022 is going to be the year of the bag. That's what I'm calling it, the year of the bag. The year of working with businesses that centre Black women, has the integrity to promote good things in our community. Me being able to add value so that you guys also benefit from it while still making money. And we need to get comfortable with saying that, because I feel like when it comes to money, we almost feel like we can't really be as honest, because you don't want to seem like you're bragging, or you don't want to kind of over egg something. But for me, in order for us to manifest, and we talk about manifestation in one of the earlier episodes of the Toy Talks podcast, you have to speak into existence. I did not think for a moment, it didn't even come into my head about licensing, but I did know that I wanted to go into organisations and kind of discuss the things that affect us as Black women as we navigate work. So it's I don't just turn up there, you know, there's prep I have to do. So being able to then continuously add that value in an organisation who and which wants to continue the conversation is really huge, and I feel very grateful. So to that end, I think we then need to kind of move on to a very moving interview that I saw recently with Wumi Bello. Wumi Bello, for those of you who do not know, she is a beautiful Black queen, content creator, and also she is a host, and she has her own show on YouTube that she develops herself. If you just literally type in Wumi Bello, but if you look in the show notes, I'm going to send the link to a particular episode. And she was interviewing Chidera, who is an Igbo queen. You guys may know her as the Slumflower. Very controversial, very opinionated, in a way that I think is not only just beautiful, that is much needed. And she used to refer to herself as an activist, not anymore. She doesn't refer to herself as an activist, but without spoiling the episode, I'll let you go and have a listen. But recently they did an interview, and I watched it on Saturday. And first of all, the very first thing I thought about, I was thinking when I was watching it, was wow, it's so beautiful to see two Black queens having conversation and talking about things that we need to hear, but equally as well having the uncomfortable discussions. And she talks about her relationship with her mum, and she talks about kind of being set up by lesbians, being set up by white people who seemingly were there to support her, but actually they gaslit her, they mistreated her, they took from her and they pillaged from her. But what they can't steal from her is the essence of who she is and what she stands for. And anyway, going through, like, listening to the interview, I thought to myself, I need to bring this to the podcast and just tell you guys to go and have a listen. And those of you who are on social media, please, because I'm thinking of reaching out to Chidera and asking her to come on the podcast, because I want to have a conversation with her. I want to be able to talk about certain topics, or pick a particular topic and have that conversation. And really talk about how, as Black women, we can, number one, do business better, and number two, her experiences in business and how it's shaped her, and number three, I want to, because she's a lot younger than me, and she's from that generation of fearlessness, and I want to explore that fearlessness a bit more. So I would love to have her on the Toy Talks podcast episode. I'm going to put my hands up to that and say that. And I don't think I've said that about anybody, but I want to talk to her because I think that there is a common ground that we have as well, especially when we talk about a relationship with her mum. And there was a few things that she had said, and it really resonated with me and really touched me, it really touched me. And it's funny, it's that generation, and the irony of both of us being Igbo as well. As she was talking about her mum, it was like literally like she was describing my mum to an extent. So yeah, maybe you guys go leave a message at Toya Talks at the podcast, and I'll reach out to her separately. And hey, if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. If the ancestors want it to happen, so shall it be. But Chidara, Slumflower, we'd love to have you here, honey. Come talk to me. Come talk to T. Anyway, moving on. Social anxiety. The assumption is you was on Big Brother. So how have you got social anxiety when there was hundreds of cameras staring at you? You had an interview with Emma Willis. You were doing shows. You were in a newspaper, you know, because you have to do like Big Brother interviews beforehand and stuff. You were doing all of that, and you're on social media behaving like a complete arse, and you're on TikTok doing much of the same. So how does that lend itself to any form of social anxiety? Whew. My social anxiety started, I believe it started when I was younger, really young. I don't know, my age, I feel like my age was like 7 or 8. I couldn't have been any younger than 6, but I just 7, 8, 9, around that time. And I shared it earlier on in the episodes of the Toy Talks podcast, so like the first maybe 4 or 5 episodes. One of those I spoke about it, about kind of finding it difficult to spell the word birthday, and not knowing, obviously I was dyslexic, because I wasn't diagnosed with dyslexia until I was 21, something like that. And I think wetting yourself in front of your class, standing at the front, trying to spell the word birthday, people looking at you, and I say wetting yourself, like, I didn't just stand there and wet myself, you know, I tried to kind of excuse myself or whatever, but I ended up wetting myself. And, you know, I won't bore you with kind of the intricate details, just go ahead and listen to the episode. And it was Mr. Hussein, who was my teacher at the time, and I think he was Mauritius. He was from Mauritius, so he was Mauritian. And my parents just thought that he was amazing as a teacher. And this is this thing, isn't it? And I think, I hate the word ethnic minorities, but for the purposes of this episode, I have to say it so that you understand what I mean. I think my parents were from that kind of generation of the teacher's always right, and like almost seeing Mr. Hussein as like a fellow ethnic minority, and then finding common ground with him on that basis. And therefore I kind of felt like he could do no wrong. So he didn't just wake up one morning and completely humiliate me because I couldn't spell the word birthday. There were little things, you know, where he would shout at me in class or keep me behind in detention and be very much in my face, but very aggressive. And then to get to a point where it comes to a head where I wet myself and I can't spell the word birthday. Even now, it still bothers me. When I have to write the word birthday, I literally write the word birth and I pause before I write day, like birthday, because the issue that I had was I thought there was an E. So after BIRTH, I used to put an E and then day. And then I used to spell it I used to spell it in E with an ER, and it was just, you know, my dyslexia was just paying up, right? No, I shouldn't even say playing up. I think my dyslexia was doing what it had to do at the time, because I didn't even know I had it. And I just remember looking into my peers and just them staring at me and me just feeling like I just wanted the floor to open up and swallow me up, and feeling that my throat was so dry that I couldn't even like spell the word properly because my throat was so dry. And I remember in that moment feeling like I just want the fire alarm to go so that this just doesn't happen, knowing full well that it was always going to happen. It was just a matter of when. So fast forward now, I'm a fully grown adult, right? And that feeling of helplessness, kind of people staring at me, it's followed me. I don't like people staring at me. Even if I'm on the train, don't fucking stare at me. What are you looking at? Why are you doing that? Or people on a platform just standing way too close. And it's a lot. I don't like that. So the public speaking thing, again, I love to do it. I feel I'm passionate about what I discuss. But there is always this deep breath that I have to take. So if I have to go do public speaking, I'm fine. As long as I go through the motion of getting there early. And I kind of did that at Kingston University, so I got there really, really early. And I did a walkthrough of the whole place. It's like I needed to allay my subconscious fear that this is kind of going to be okay. And that I've got this. So that's how I reassure myself. I remember when I did the Toya Talks Live in 2018, I took my glasses off to start with because I can't see without my glasses. So it was a way of me kind of being comfortable. I'd gotten there really early, but even when I booked the venue, I'd gone there a few times. I did a walkthrough, and you know, I've put certain mechanisms in place so I'm able to kind of deliver at an optimal level. And even during Toya Talks, I never really explored. I took my glasses off and then I put them back on when I felt comfortable, but I never really explored where that came from, and I didn't know it at the time to be social anxiety. So recently when I did a panel discussion, before the panel discussion started, obviously people had come in and they had said to me, "Oh, Toy, we really want you to meet like our CEO or whatever." So he come in, he said hello to me, had a quick conversation, and they were like, "Oh, we've got food and everything, so like, do you want to come out and like mingle and everything?" And that is the worst thing you can say to somebody with social anxiety. Do you want to mingle? I am so socially awkward. I don't even know where to put my hands. I don't even think did I have pockets in my trousers? I don't know. Do you know what it was? I had pockets in my trousers, but I couldn't even get my hand in my pockets because I was so nervous. And I was like, okay, so how do I kind of mingle? Like, how do you do that? You just don't walk up to people, do you? Is that how you do it? I don't know. So I get up and I go outside, and it just felt like the light was very bright. I was like, why is everything bright? Tuesday, I just cleaned my glasses. Why is everything bright? But I think it was just like my social anxiety in HD, knowing that obviously people knew I was there to give a talk, right? Because clearly, you know, I looked like somebody who was a guest. And then I was like, okay, so how do you actually mingle? Like, do you just go? I just don't understand. So I got my phone out, and I started taking pictures because I thought, okay, as long as I look like I'm doing something, it's fine, isn't it? And if anyone wants to talk to me, fine. If no one doesn't, fine, because I'm still doing something. I'm taking pictures, obviously, for content and stuff, and obviously for the vlogs as well. So luckily for me, that lasted about 5, 6 minutes, and then the panel discussion was underway, and I was in my element. I was literally in my element, and the feedback was amazing that I received. And it was mainly centered around kind of being able to be myself and use my humor, but still talk about things that are so pertinent, so important, but almost removing the barrier of defensiveness from people by showing them not only am I human, but equally, this is my experience. So that was a lot of the feedback that I got. But at the end of it, obviously they said to us it would be nice like at the end to like take pictures and stuff, which I did, and during, because I think there were pictures taken. So at the end, people came like rushing over to me, and I was able to talk, and you know, that was quite nice because I felt like I wasn't seeking them out, they came to talk to me, and that was really nice. But then, you know, like when that kind of died down a little bit, I didn't kind of know what to do. I was just like, okay. And that's what I was doing. Like just that right here. Oh my God, because I'm in that moment right now. And I just kind of felt like I wasn't in control and I didn't know what to do. And the other panel member, there was a couple of us, but one of the panel members, you know, for him, in my opinion, he saw this as an opportunity to actually get bigger work, like longer work. So like work with this organisation as they go on that journey to kind of like diversity and equality training. So he was using this opportunity to mingle as like a pitch. And I'm not that person, okay? I'm not going to go and pitch to you. Like I have just literally done a panel discussion. I've got a whole website. I've got content that I produce. I've got a podcast. That to me is kind of what I put in Front Street. So for me, if you want to work with me based on what you've seen, I don't have to advertise to you personally. You can go ahead and see my platforms. Do you know what I mean? That's my view. And I also think as well that part of that is me feeling comfortable and safe, that I don't have to kind of further go outside my comfort zone, because if somebody really wants to understand what I do, it's there. Anyway, I was just like standing there, and then I was like, I can't do this, because I couldn't breathe. I was like, I've got to go. I've literally got to go. So I left I feel like looking back, I left abruptly. So I went and got my bag. No, I went to the people that I had the contact with, and I said to them, listen, I've got to go. And I could see that the CEO obviously had met him and everything, but I could tell that kind of he wanted to have a chat with me, or he was waiting for the opportunity to come and talk to me or whatever. But I just couldn't handle it. I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I've got to go. So remember when I was reading you 1 to 6, the things people with anxiety do that can come across as rude. One of them, number 6, is you leave events early. And that, I mean, I've done that before. I do it a lot, actually. I'm not even going to lie. Before the whole lockdown, I'd go somewhere, I would leave, like, it would be like out of the blue. It would come across as rude. And when I look back to that panel discussion and leaving, it did come across as rude, because really, I should have done what the other panel member did and go and have the conversation, or at least say bye to the CEO. But I wasn't even thinking in that moment. All I was thinking about is that I need to leave here, and I want to go now. You know, it wasn't like I took a minute and I thought, right, let me look on my phone, let me check social media, you know, kind of took by the time. No, I got my stuff, and I didn't, like, I'd said bye to a couple of people, like, on the panel, and then I'd got my bag and I walked off. I didn't even say bye, everybody. No, I just literally, and then as soon as I got in the Uber, or was it a Bolt? I think the Bolt. As soon as I got in the Bolt, I could breathe a sigh of relief. And I now know that that is social anxiety. And the idea that social interactions are just it's too intense generating, and it gives this, I'm just not comfortable with it. And it's funny because when Kay and I were in the early stages of our relationship, you know, Kay would take me out, I'd meet like his cousins and stuff, but I was just so awkward. And he would say it to me, he goes, you're so awkward. And I wouldn't know how to digest that, because at that time I didn't know about social anxiety, or at least I wasn't cognizant of the fact that I was suffering from social anxiety. And number one, I'm not the type of person that goes out anyway. I am the type of person that cancels plans last minute, which is number 5 of the things people with anxiety do that come across as rude. I do cancel stuff last minute. And I'm one of those people that if you cancel stuff last minute, I'm fine with it. I have no issue. I'm that person that I like cancellations. I like it when you cancel, and I'm okay with it, and I'm not judging you. I'm not particularly good on my phone. So I don't really respond to messages. I respond to like voice notes. So I've got one friend, Bimps. I call her Bimps. And that's how we communicate on voice notes. And I'm comfortable that she's one of my really good friends. I really like her. and I'm comfortable with that. But when people generally call me, it takes me a while to get back to them. If you WhatsApp me, it does take me a while sometimes. And again, it's rooted in that, in having anxiety. For me, also saying the right thing. Sometimes I overthink it a lot. But there are people that I feel really comfortable with, so it's fine, I'll respond to them. But if it's somebody who I'm not as close to, I just long it. I mean, I remember there was this one person, she sent me a message and I didn't respond for a month. And she was like, oh, I messaged you, da, da, da. And I didn't hear back from you. And I didn't have an excuse. I was like, oh. And she hadn't spoken to me since because I think she thought I was rude. I wasn't being rude, babe. I just didn't know what to say to you, man. I mean, I just didn't want to respond in that time. I don't even have a reason for not responding. I just didn't want to. God, that's rude, isn't it? Number 2, you set rigid boundaries. So I know that you guys, obviously, you hear me on Instagram stories and stuff, but I think my boundaries are quite rigid, 100%. And I think part of it is because I want to protect myself. But I don't like, I don't argue with my friends. And they'll all tell you. You can have a disagreement, but I think disagreeing and arguing are 2 different things. I think disagreeing with somebody is just having a difference of opinion and then accepting that you have a different opinion. And you don't even have to agree to disagree. You could just have a difference of opinion and that's fine. But having an argument is laced, in my experience, I always see arguments as laced with negative emotion, toxicity and anger. And because I've come from that with my mum, I can't be in those spaces. I'll run. Anybody who wants to argue with me, I can cut you off for an argument, for trying to start one, because I'll never engage, ever engage in an argument. But if you're trying to draw me into one, or you deliberately keep trying to start one, I can cut you off and block you. Very, very easy. Very easy. I've done it to several people. And it's to do with that anxiety of having to engage on that emotional level. And it gives me this sense of exasperation, number 1, but it kind of makes me feel stressed, a heightened state of stress. I can come out in hives. I've had the only person I argue with was my mum. And that I haven't argued with her for a long time because I'm not on talking terms with her. But part of that is because I know that my mum's mode of communication is through arguments. That's how she communicates, how she likes to talk. I can't live in that heightened state of anger, and I can't, because my default of who I am is just not that person. So to feel like that is my mum's preferred choice of communication, that's alien to me. But for some people, that's their chosen choice of communication, is to argue. And I think people don't seem to get it. Arguing and disagreeing are completely different things. Like, we're social creatures. Some people say some people are antisocial creatures, but either way, you can't go through life saying, I'm never going to have a disagreement. You always are. Like, even at work, you have professional disagreements. I think it's important to have them. They're healthy. Because equally, I think even within that, you know how far you can go. Have an argument. Do you know how much energy it takes to employ and use to have a full-blown argument? No, I'm not doing that. And if I have to argue, then I should think you should pay me, because it should be during the course of my duties at work. And I don't argue at work. I know that there is a lot of consultants on giving projects, and they have full-blown argument with their internal stakeholders. You won't catch me having an argument, I'm very matter of fact. No, this is what I believe. This is my contractual position. This is my commercial position. I don't feel like I need to argue with you. And I'm not going to do it. I will much rather leave a situation. Again, rooted in social anxiety. And number 1, you act distant and are sometimes considered aloof. You who do not know what aloof means, I've just Googled it for you guys because I know how I understand it, but obviously I just want to give you a proper definition. And it's somebody who is not friendly or forthcoming, cool and distant. I would definitely say that about myself. I'm quite a distant person. It's weird, isn't it? Because with my best friend, I'm very engaged with her. Very. But then I feel like I can be just completely myself. And I trust her to be herself. And there is no airs and graces. There's no heightened state of emotion with her. We have a very peaceful friendship. And I think people need to talk about peaceful relationships. Like, you're allowed to have peaceful friendships. Don't get me wrong. Me and Kay do have arguments. Yeah? And that's the point, isn't it? I think for me, it's knowing where I can have those. Because I think when I have arguments with Kay, I'm still in a very safe space. But Kay and I have more disagreements than we do arguments, if I'm being completely honest. And I think that comes from a space of me not being comfortable having arguments, and neither is Kay. But we do disagree. Yeah, we do, a lot. And you would too, if you live and work in the same house as your partner and have been in lockdown with them. Do you know what I mean? And I feel safe though, because I know that there's a boundary that Kay won't cross with me. I also know that he loves me, and I also know that I am with my best friend. So I don't feel unsafe almost to kind of agree, disagree, or argue, whatever the case is. Like I said, I've cut people off for trying to start arguments with me for no reason. But equally as well, I think I've spent a lot of time and a lot of years and a lot of therapy dealing with my temper. So I have a complete control over my temper. So equally as well, there is that anxiety that, is this person who enjoys living in arguments one step away from kind of making me blow up? And if that person does, how am I going to live with myself post losing my temper? And I don't want to be in that position, because I don't want to feel like somebody has that much control over me. And that in itself is knowing somebody loves arguments. That anxiety associated with that person is too much for me. So I'd cut the person off and walk away. And I've done that, especially in my late 20s. I did a lot of cut-offs. So if you were to go to certain people, I'm sure they'd still be angry that I just disappeared. But it's funny, because those of you who has watched Power, there's a character called Ghost, and he's known as Ghost for different reasons. But one of my friends, that's what she actually calls me. She calls me Ghost because she's a really good friend of mine, but she's watched me go ghost on other people because of their need to communicate through a mode of argument. That's what they're comfortable with. And what they're not realising is you're triggering me, because my mum's like that. You're triggering me because I've done a lot of work on my temper. You're triggering me because you're telling me that you don't even have the tools to have a conversation. That means I've got to employ a lot of emotion every single time a difficult topic comes up. I can't live like that. What's all that? I can't live like that, darling. You know, when your hairline makes an appearance, you have to put respect on it. My hairline's been gone for a long, long time. You know, there's a song by Lauren Hill. You may lost one, but you just gained one. I lost the hairline and I gained a lot of hair follicles, and now I've got a lot more hair in my front line. So I'm not ready now to start giving myself hives and hair loss because of toxic way of communication through arguments. That's just not what I'm prepared to do. But back to the matter of social anxiety. That's where it stems from as well. Like that whole argument, that whole all eyes on you, that whole oh my God center. Now, off the back of kind of having social anxiety as well, I have a very difficult time centering myself. So when I got engaged, I picked my bridesmaids and I met up with them and kind of told them, yeah, get married, and I made it about them. And one of my bridesmaids actually said to me, she pointed it out, she goes, you feel so uncomfortable centering yourself that even getting married, you make it about others. And I thought that was such a powerful statement to make, and I had to really explore why that was, because I knew it to be true. And I think it's that anxiety of always putting others first and not feeling comfortable in a space of center, because it hasn't always been about me. I'm used to always giving, I'm used to always doing for others and not having them do for me. So when something is about me, I get anxiety. I'm like, how do I deflect? And that's basically what I've done. I just deflect from me and make it about others, because there is an anxiousness I feel making myself important. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts? Like, even hearing myself say that upsets me, because I've done and do so much for other people, but I yet have an inability to celebrate myself. And that's laced in anxiety. It's laced in all those things. And what gave birth to that anxiety was when I was younger, when I trusted an authority to look after me, nurture me as a student. And yet they made me the center, but when they did, it was to humiliate me in front of an audience of my peers, and yet still thought that that was an acceptable thing to do simply because you were a teacher. And that has been like a stain on my personality. It's been a mark and a scar that I have now grown up with, and in my adult life I still harbour, I still have in my heart. And when I say still harbour, I harbour it in that I'm able to recall it word for word what happened, because I never really let go of it because of what it did to me. And that's why, I don't know, it's weird, because I'm thinking in my mind, when I started looking into social anxiety, I associated it with not being confident. It's got nothing to do with that. You can still be a confident person that suffers from anxiety. And what I've realised is it does affect me at work. But I've used remote working as a safety blanket, and it's been a flipping warm safety blanket. So for example, I remember when I was going on to when I just started this contract, and I was going on to calls, and they would say, what does the commercial contract consultant think? And I didn't think anything, because I didn't really know. I was like a week in, but I was expected to know. And I literally had anxiety. So what I did is I just hung up, and then I'd wait for 10-15 minutes, and I'd log back in, and then I'd leave a message in the chat and said, oh my God, my internet dropped out. My internet did not flipping drop out. How can it drop out? It is like the best Wi-Fi downloadable bandwidth. It didn't drop out. What dropped out was me. I dropped out because I wasn't ready to deal with that. I felt anxiety because I put too much expectation on myself. I should have just said, can I take that offline and come back? I could have just said that, Now I know that. And I don't like being put on the spot like that. It's triggering for me to be put on the spot, because when you put me on the spot, you've put an expectation on me, and I don't like that, As time has gone on with this particular consultant role, I am the subject matter expert. I kind of own this particular element of the project. But I remember when I first started and I was asked to introduce myself, I'll be stuttering. But I didn't even know, and how to do that. I didn't know what to say. What is it that you want me to introduce? And I think it's important that we talk about social anxiety, because I feel like had I known earlier on that I suffer from social anxiety, I could have put steps in place to manage it. It's the same with my learning disability. As soon as I was diagnosed with dyslexia, I was able to understand that I need to develop an understanding of how I learned. And then you start to build things around yourself to help you learn and process information better. And therefore, in my case anyway, manage my dyslexia. And I know for some people it's not always like that. I've got a friend, or two friends actually, who have dyslexia, and it's completely different how their dyslexia manifests and how they manage it and deal with it. But knowing that I have dyslexia means that I've managed it quite well, and I've been able to give myself grace in the process and time it takes for me to absorb and process information because I'm dyslexic, and be very cognizant of how I learn and process information and master that. But I think with social anxiety it's different, because you don't know it straight away. I definitely remember in my 20s, I used to come across as really rude, quite stuck up. I used to be told I was quite stuck up and high maintenance. And I'm so far from that person who's high maintenance. Kay will tell you, I'm so far from that person. But I think what used to be perceived as rudeness is me kind of protecting myself and not necessarily knowing how to communicate anxiety. And I just want to say that one of the things that I did and I do in all my roles, is when someone asks me to introduce myself, I've already got a post-it note with 4 bullet points, and they're prompts. So however it is I introduce myself, I have to cover each of these things in the bullet point. And I literally like put it on my laptop, I paste it on my laptop, and until I memorize those 4 points, so that I say something. And then as you get used to it and get in the flow of it, you get confidence. So the next time someone asks you, you might tell a bit of a joke and then you'll say, introduce yourself. But I think that's also rooted in, as black women, the fact that we've been so invisible for so long. How do you introduce yourself? Like, you almost get shocked that somebody wants you to introduce yourself. Oh, you see me, do you? I've only been in the company like 2 years. You just noticed I'm here. Wow, how many paychecks is that to get to this point? I definitely say that I like my own company a lot. My friends often celebrate me, especially Bimps. She celebrates me when I leave the house. It's like a running joke, because I would always stay in rather than go out. But also as well, I think, let me give you an example. So one of Kay's friends a couple of years ago had a birthday, and I know Kay's friend really well, and he introduced us to his partner, and she's lovely, really nice lady. So we had a dinner, and it was one of those long table dinners. So I got there, and because Kay knows what I'm like, he knows that I want him to stay next to me. Not because I can't sit by myself, but because of my social anxiety, it will come across as me being rude. So Kay knows how to kind of draw out my personality a little bit. So if he goes and sits somewhere else, I'm just not going to talk to nobody. And I may even leave. Yeah, that's how bad it is. So Kay and I ended up sitting at the end. Whereas normally we wouldn't actually do that. On a long table, we would sit maybe like inward a little bit. Do you know what I mean? A bit more. And Kay's friend then came over to sit with me and Kay, and like he like doing the rounds, like talking to people. And when we got home, Kay was like, "Do you know you came across as really rude?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You spoke to me, you spoke to the person next to you, but you didn't speak to no one else." And I said, "But they were too far down the table." He goes, "Yeah, but Toy, they were trying to talk to you, and you were just like giving one word answers and that. And then you were just like looking on the floor like you were awkward." And Kay didn't understand it. He was getting frustrated because he didn't understand why I would always do that. And then when I said to him, "I think I'm socially awkward," and we started exploring it a bit more, he got it. Like, Kay is so supportive of me and so loving. He knows how to bring me out of my shell a little bit while still being protective and still respecting the fact that my social anxiety operates how it operates, and I just have to understand how to manage it. And even like, I'd say like, just generally with people I don't know, I do come across awkward. Like, I remember ages ago I was on the train and these beautiful black queens came up to me and they were like, "Oh my God, Toya, oh my God." I didn't know what to do. And the thing is, the train was moving. If the doors were open, I would have been like, "Hi ladies, take care," and I would have walked out. I wouldn't even know the station because I wouldn't know how to deal with that. Again, it's social anxiety, but I could see how that could come across as rude. So I'm conscious of that now. So what I do is if someone says hello, recognises me or whatever, I have a 4-stage process. I say hello to them. I tell them I'm socially awkward. I ask them about them. And then I make sure I say goodbye when I'm ready. I literally have to do that because that's the only way I can make sure that I don't come across as rude. Like, if I tell you I'm socially awkward, you understand what that means, you're less likely to judge me or see me as rude. And if after that 4-stage process you still see me as rude, I can't do anything then because I've been my honest self. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And this is what I wanted to bring to the episode because I think it's important that we talk about social awkwardness. Because even in the workplace, there's been workplaces in my younger years where people would say, and my feedback from managers would be, "You need to interact with the team more, you're not a team player." All of these kind of provocative words. But there's no understanding and appreciation for social anxiety, that people need a bit more encouragement and a bit more time to develop the skills to interact. Some people just don't have the skills and never will develop them. But where people are making an effort or try, it just takes people a lot more time. People need to feel comfortable, because what is anxiety? It's feeling uncomfortable and a lack of control. So you have to give people the grace to develop that as well. And in the work setting, it's really difficult as well, as black women, as we know, because we also understand that there is a politics in the world of work, and then you have the added pressure of the pressure you place on yourself, wanting to give a good impression, wanting to deliver, do well, and then for some people there is that additional fear of losing your job. So that again gives a sense of anxiety, and people think anxiety is kind of like going into your shell. Some people have anxiety and have very loud and out robust personalities, like boof, but it's masking their own insecurity. That to me sometimes can come across a bit toxic and false, but it's still recognized as a form of anxiety as well. I 100% believe that. But I think that there is an honesty that needs to be communicated, and understanding how you manage it. So I've made the decision that my next panel discussion, I'm going to make an effort, and I'm going to do again a 4-stage process. I will go to 4 different people in that situation and introduce myself. Hi, I'm Toya, remembering that I've already practiced how I introduce myself in the world of work anyway. So I will go and introduce myself, and I'll ask people about them. That's my first thing I'm going to do. The second thing I'm going to do is make sure that I am warm in so much as, if I put myself out there and say hello to people and ask them about them, that's displaying warmth. And smile, because when you're feeling anxiety, you're not always smiling, like it's tense. So I need to make the effort, and even if I look crazy smiling, at least someone will say, oh, she was crazy when she was smiling, rather than my face was tight. You understand? Because when my face is tight, my bum cheeks are tight. Then if my face and my bum cheeks are tight, everywhere tight, everywhere tension, I don't want that. Okay. The third thing I'm gonna do is actually tell the person, oh my God, I do find it really overwhelming, and I do have social anxiety, so I'm really pushing myself here to kind of work through that by coming out of my comfort zone. Set the scene. The fourth thing I'm going to do is make sure I say goodbye. Even if it's too generically, like say bye to certain people, and then say a generic bye. Bye everyone, have a great weekend, lovely meeting you. So I've got openers and I've got a close. Because what tends to happen is you may not even have an opener, but if you do, you don't have a close because of the anxiety. It comes across as rudeness when you walk away. So those are things that I'm going to be doing, okay? And I'm going to put that in place, and I've written it down, and I've got to do it. No matter how it makes me feel, it will make me feel better if I could tick it off and say, I tried, this is what I tried. And then obviously mould it and tailor it. But making sure, now that I've identified that I have social anxiety, is understanding then what I have to do to work in and within that social anxiety to manage it, so that I develop the skills to be able to interact on a level that I think is better than where it is now. I definitely will say that it's important as well that this episode is done, because the assumption is Toya can't possibly suffer from social anxiety. But now you know why I do. I do. And also I'm shy. Again, people will be like, you. I'm shy. And you know what, yeah, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Just because you're on Big Brother doesn't mean you're not shy. I was a different person then as well. Very different, in that I just wanted to be famous, make loads of money, and go to Nigeria. That was my plan. That was my only plan. I'm still here. I'm still here. But my life is very different. And I'm on a different path, a different trajectory, and one that fulfills my life purpose. But it doesn't mean that I don't get nervous and I don't worry about certain things. But yes, there is an element of being confident and understanding that confidence is when I'm talking about something I'm passionate about, and when I'm happy about the things I talk about, which I am always, and I love it. And I definitely believe that this is my purpose. But then when you're going to unfamiliar environments, there is going to be a level of anxiety. And I think everybody at a certain point in their life has suffered from anxiety. But then some people suffer from a prolonged anxiety and have to work through that. So I have spoken to my therapist about it as well. And I told her what I want to do with the 4-stage process. She thought it was awesome. Because she said to me, you have the introspection to see that. Some people don't, or don't know how to articulate it, but you have done that. So you've done the most difficult part. Now it's about coming out your comfort zone to make sure those things that I've put in place happens. Oh, I really hope that resonates, you know. I really do. I hope so. I hope so. It's important that I had to speak about this today. Yeah, wow. Wow, I finally spoke about it. That's a relief for me. Right, we've got some dilemmas. So I'm going to read the dilemmas. Let's get going. Let's get going. Sorry. Guys, you know that I'm a bit cuckoo. Right, the first dilemma. Let's see what this queen has to say. Is it a long one? Okay, it's not a long one. Hi, Toya. I hope you're well. I'll try to keep this short. Earlier this year, I moved from a diverse multinational to a small specialist company, which is a partnership with about 60 staff nationally. I don't gel with the culture as they are a bit too close-knit. We're like family. Literally, that's how she wrote it. For my liking, and have control freak-like policies. I knew I wanted out in my first week, but I thought I'd stick it out for at least 1 year just to get what I want out of the role, as it was an intentional move. However, a few months ago, they showed their nyash when a partner made a very insensitive and racist joke where they compared Afghanistan to East London in the Microsoft Teams group chat. This was around the time the Taliban took over. Please see snippet attached. Oh, she's got an attachment. I didn't even notice that. Which makes it worse for me is that the colleagues they LOL'd at it. What made it worse for me is that the colleagues laughed at it, so LOL'd at it. This was obviously made its way to my burn folder. I'm actually dead. As the only person of colour, let alone black woman in the company who also happens to be very close to Islam, the remarks made me feel very uncomfortable. As everybody reports to the partners, I'm not comfortable or confident to call this out. I've interviewed at a couple of places and received good offers. Unfortunately, my notice period at this place is 3 months. Come on, let me tell you how to get out of that one anyway. Is this something negotiable? 100%. I hope I'm not too late with this young lady because she emailed this on the 26th of October. So I'm going to email her and ask her to listen to this episode. When I leave this company, I would like to bring this up with them as it was the final drop for me. But I'm not sure how or whether it may even be worth doing so. I would love to get your thoughts on this. Okay, so first of all, let me open this attachment. Come on, attachment. So it says, someone said, just had an alert from, I'm not going to say that, advising against travel to Afghanistan, ! And the second person says, sadly, Kabul was the first choice for the autumn DO. And the second person said, East London is a good substitute. That's disgusting. It's just elitism, isn't it? Absolutely disgusting. So first of all, I want to congratulate you on your burn folder because many people have passed through these dilemmas, and when I ask a simple question like burn folder, even though we talk about it every other week, I keep hearing excuses. So thank you for listening, and well done to you for covering yourself and understanding that you needed a burn folder. Secondly, your 3 months is definitely... Listen, everything is negotiable. But I'm happy that you've asked me this question, and I'll tell you why. It's going to be about how you negotiate, my dear. If I was you, if I got an offer for a job, if I want it, it ticks the boxes, due diligence done, I will get an offer. In the process of getting that offer, you can have 24 hours to think about it. Within those 24 hours, the people that, the director or whoever involved in that joke, will email the partner and say, please find the chat attached. I would like to have a conversation regarding the attachment, which I found wholly unprofessional, disrespectful, offensive, with racist undertones. That's what you have to write there. Please advise me when you're available for a chat. And then I'll speak to the director. I'll say, listen, this made me feel very uncomfortable and therefore has made my employment here untenable. I would like to leave, and I note within my employment contract there's 3 months notice. However, I'll put it to you, in order for me to feel as though I can work that 3 months notice, the conditions have to be conducive. The conditions here are not conducive. As a black woman, a person of colour, an ethnic minority by the definition of the stereotypes in this country, how am I supposed to continue working for an organisation that thinks it's acceptable to send these type of messages, fully ignoring the diverse nature of this organisation? Listen, one person that's a black woman, I'll even use the word diverse. We all know that that's not diverse. I'll use it there. I'll ask you, and I'd say I've taken external advice, because when you say external advice, I don't know what external advice, but you say you've taken external advice and actually you want to negotiate your notice period so that you can comfortably work your notice. But as it stands at the moment, you can't bear to be there another second. I'll put it on them. I'll put it to you. They will even be begging you. They will say, actually, we pay you for the 3 months. It's about framing. We have that episode about framing. You have to frame things in a certain way. Because let's be honest, we're being honest about the reason you're leaving. The reason you're leaving is because of the lack of diversity. You've come from a multinational organisation to a very tight-knit organisation who is not only small but not ethnically diverse. And yet they feel comfortable with saying these things. I'm sure they've said other things, you're just not saying it here. Or maybe they've said things that are microaggressions. And you can say that. And if I was you, when you've had the conversation, I'd put it in writing. Keep it brief. You see how you've written here? Brief, brief, brief. And I've spoken in other episodes about how to boom, 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 just briefly. And put it to them. HR don't want a legal battle. They don't want to have to deal with investigating. See how you've copied and pasted it here with name scratched out? You need to attach it to that email that I've just dictated. They will pay you for the 3 months. And I think maybe you shouldn't even say that you want to reduce. I think the way you should say it is that you want to reduce it and you want them to pay you for the remaining month that you would have worked, because they've made your employment untenable. That's what I do. So I'd only work like a month and make them pay for the remaining 2 months. That's what I do. 100%. Why should I rob myself of a full money? Because you, as an organisation, are shit at allowing me to work peacefully so that I can work my notice. And but for the negligence and the racism in this organisation, I wouldn't even be leaving in the first place. So you got to pay for it. That's how I look at it. That's my attitude, though. So hopefully that helps. And if it doesn't, please let me know. But I'm hoping it does, because I think that you have a real ground here to not only negotiate, but you have leverage. And if you listen to the negotiation masterclass, I talk about what leverage actually means. Leverage is a form of power, but power in influencing a negotiation to get what you want. And it's a win-win for both of them in this situation. It's a win for you if you can negotiate down your notice period, number one, but negotiate it down and get paid for the remaining months is a bonus. And it's a win for them, because these organisations are lazy. They don't want to have to actually do the work of investigating and actually rectifying and actually admitting liability. They don't want that. And they'll see you as a risk to causing them, that their risk rating or risk factor is increased, because effectively they know that if you kick up a stink enough, it's not going to look good on them from a reputational perspective. And reputation, the value on reputation is far exceeds 3 months. You see where we're going with this, babe? Hopefully that helps, my dear. And I will email you to tell you to listen to this episode and let me know how you get on, and wishing you the best of luck. Right, so we have another email. Hello, Toya. I hope you're well. Thank you for helping me as usual, because I've helped this person before. I had first started working at my job 4 weeks ago. I was offered the job, and the most important part of the offer was the pay increase in 4 to 6 months, as I'm training at the moment. The increase will be a review of my current pay. I had emailed HR asking them to put the pay increase of 4 to 6 months from now in my contract. Why didn't you put it in your contract beforehand? You've eroded your ability to negotiate this. You've already signed the contract, and now you're asking them to retrospectively put in a pay increase of within 4 to 6 months. That doesn't make sense. They did not reply to my email. Of course they didn't, because they don't have to. Instead, during my weekly review meeting, both my managers had said to me, "We will not put the pay increase review in your contract. As a company, we do this automatically." So my question is, if you do it automatically, how hard is it then for you to just put it in the contract? Do you understand? It doesn't make sense. If you're going to do something automatically, what does it take away from you to add it to the contract then? It's because you don't want to put a contractual obligation to review the salary. Because when you make it a contractual obligation, you compel them to do it irrespective. So for example, if they lost profits and they weren't making a lot of money, but you've got that in the contract, they still have to review it. But it's just, they still have to review it, and they still have to go to the motion of reviewing it. But the problem as well is review doesn't mean increase. It's just a pay increase review. So it's a review to review. So just because they review it doesn't necessarily mean there's an obligation for them to give you an increase. And that's the point, in a way. I think what you should have negotiated at the start of your contract is an increase, a quantifiable increase, not an obligation to review. Let's continue. I have received some pushback from them, telling me it's done automatically for all employees. However, this was not written in an email. Instead, my email to HR was ignored. They decided to address this in the meeting. This means I have no proof in writing. I did not send a follow-up email to confirm this. Well, why not? So you already know that, number one, they don't want to put the obligation to review in the contract. Number two, HR ignored your email. Number three, both managers brought it up in a meeting. Number four, you haven't followed up. So what was stopping you after your meeting with them to follow up with a summary of what was agreed? What was stopping you from doing that? Can you not see that the lack of putting things in writing is a common theme now? They're not, you're not. So how are you as a black woman protecting yourself in this employment? How are you doing that? You're not entering this employment understanding that you need to protect yourself, no matter how small. I'm worried that my review for the pay increase may not happen in exactly 4 to 6 months. Or they've got within 4 to 6 months, and in between the 4 to 6 is 5. So you're right. They can easily be pushed to 9 months or even a year. Well, that is being optimistic. They could just not do it at all. That's an option I don't think you've considered. Ultimately, it is at the manager's discretion to decide if I'm fit for the pay review or not. Yes. I have a funny feeling about this, as what it's not written is not necessarily enforceable. So you know that. Okay. I would like to know what I can do if they refuse to revise my employment contract. I've signed my employment contract a week ago. Well, you know the answer already. You know the answer. That's why you're emailing me, because you know the answer. First of all, we speak all the time about organisations. We do it every week. I draw examples from my life, my experiences when I was in my 20s and didn't even know I had rights or how to enforce them or what rights look like or understanding the system. There is nothing compelling them from even giving you a review. First of all, there's no obligation to give you a pay increase. It's a review to review. They don't actually have to review. There's no obligation to have to do it. And there is nothing to say that even after a review, that they'll give you an increase after. So what I will say is, you've signed your contract already, so you've got no leverage. You are at the mercy of the discretion of this company. A company that hasn't put anything in your contract, and HR that has ignored your email. Do you know what it means for HR to ignore your email? If you called in sick, they would email you. Where are you? Where's your doctor's note? Yeah? So HR know how and when to engage. They're not engaging with you because there's nothing there for them to do. You've done it for them because you've not put anything in writing. You haven't covered your own back and you signed the contract. Do you know that I've worked in an organisation before where I've never signed a contract? Because we'll still negotiate, and even after my start date, we'll negotiate it. But someone can say, well, by conduct, you've accepted the terms. No, I haven't. Because I've accepted I've accepted terms because sometimes, not sometimes, everyone's governed by some contract, right? So if you don't have a signed contract, ACAS basically says they have to give you, I can't remember what the name is now, it's completely out of my head, but like standard terms, like standard when you get paid, like almost like heads of terms, right? When you get paid, how long you've been there, until you get a formal contract. Do you understand? Okay. So I've been in a situation where I was negotiating. I've also been in a situation where I've had a contract and basically it says you've only passed your probation when you receive a letter formally informing you've passed your probation. And upon passing your probation, your termination notice period, increases to 3 months. Before then, it's only 4 weeks. I've never received a letter. Then when I was looking for a job, I found a job. I gave them 4 weeks notice. They said, no, you have to give us 3 months notice. I said, well, I never got my letter saying I passed my probation. And according to your contract, until I receive that letter, then I'm still considered as on probation. Therefore, if the termination or the notice period I have to give you is only 4 weeks, if I haven't passed my probation, I haven't got any letter, therefore it's only 4 weeks. If you wanted it to be 3 months, you should give me a letter to pass my probation. It's not for me to prompt you, HR, to send me a letter. Do you understand how these contracts are working? You have to safeguard yourself. It was more beneficial for me to not get a letter confirming I passed my probation. That was because the leverage then is on me. They were literally begging me to give them more notice so they can get someone to replace me and I could do a handover. And they paid me. Yeah, I said, well, I'm only going to give you extra 2 weeks. Yeah, you got to pay me. Do you understand? So in this situation, darling, you're at their mercy because you placed yourself in this position. You eroded your leverage. You eroded it by signing a contract that the contents weren't complete because what you wanted inside that you didn't negotiate. Number 2, you have to learn from this. It's not just about reviewing a pay increase 4 to 6 months. You need to quantify the increase. So you need to have agreed what the increase will be or have a mechanism within the contract that says an increase of up to. So for example, maybe it's like a 20% increase, for example. Then you'd say an increase of up to 20%. So it means that the maximum they could give you is 20%, but they know that they don't actually know what it could be, but they say, oh, okay, it would be up to 20%. Therefore, they could give you less, but they couldn't give you, they wouldn't be in a position to give you any more. Some organisations are like that. They don't want to leave it open-ended, but you have to quantify what that increase will be. It's called a positive obligation. A positive obligation on them to quantify what the pay review would be, i.e. they have to do it. Because you could have still had the pay increase review in there, but they would turn around and say, yeah, we've reviewed it and we're not going to give you an increase. Do you understand? So either way, you're not looking at this properly. And equally as well, you've had all these discussions, apparently they do it automatically, but they've also automatically ignored you. And it doesn't bode well for possibly your future in this organisation. Because what it shows me is they don't respect their employees. It shows me they don't stick to their word, and it shows me they're slippery characters. So in this situation, my dear, you're at their mercy. I'm sorry, but you are. I've got to be honest. You can put it in writing to them if you would like, but like I said to you, there's no obligation on them to review and give you an increase. They could just review it, yeah, if they wanted to, but they don't have to give you an increase. And you've got to take this as a learning lesson. What is enforceable has to be written down. What is enforceable has to be agreed in the document that it's written down, and both parties sign it. If you get an offer letter and it gives you the terms of your offer, you need to make sure those terms are replicated in your employment contract, because sometimes within your employment contract there's a little line that says anything that was agreed before the signing of this contract is eroded or is superseded, is superseded by the contents of this contract. Which means if you at offer stage was offered a 20% bonus every year, and then you got an employment contract that says anything that was offered no longer exists, what takes precedent is the contract, but the 20% is not in there, then you ain't going to get it, are you? I know I've got a masterclass coming out, the remote masterclass on employment contracts in January, so I suggest you attend and you take this as a learning lesson. This L is learning lesson on safeguarding what you want in order for you to effectively operate within an organisation. And you need to do your due diligence as well, because you haven't done it. Right. I've got another email. Right. I'm not going to read this email out, and I'm going to make it all be clear why. This young lady, she's got in the subject box being cancelled, and basically she made reference to something, right? That, to be honest with you, I'm not reading it on this podcast, and I'll tell you the reason. When I was growing up, there were certain things my parents obviously taught us, me and my brothers, but my dad was very clear. Outside this house, you don't talk about sexuality. Other people's sexuality, that is. Religion. Politics. Stay away from those three topics outside the house. You are working in organisations that do not promote the success of black women. Why would you talk about this? We all saw everything to do with Wiley. We all witnessed that. So why would you engage in this type of conversation in the office? Why would you do that? So, your last question, I'm not sure what to do. I've been coming in each day for the last week, but I feel a bit ejected and ignored by the partners, and paranoia about the people's perceptions has set in. Is it time to jump ship? It's not for me to tell you to jump ship. The fact that you are writing it here, you already know the answer. Some of us have very passionate and strong views. I do. But you have to temper those views in certain environments. There are topics that are off limits. Why is it that everybody wants to talk about everything? Why? And why have you got to talk about everything in the office? Why? Why do you feel as though you have to teach? Why? Are you a teacher? Even if you're a teacher, did they come as your students? Why? There's certain things you don't, it's okay to not talk about certain things. It is actually okay. Until some of you have developed an understanding of the world of work properly, you have to just temper yourself. You can't email me this, babes. I'm not going to read this out. I'm not doing it. No. You understand that there's certain things you can't talk about in the office. You can't. Why do some of you deal with the office like it's your playground? Why? I don't understand. I'm really confused. I don't get it. Because it's very obvious to me that when you can't go to work, you go in as a version of yourself. Remember, I have an episode, showing up to work as yourself. A version of yourself. But you can't take the whole of yourself. You can't. Because you're still in a professional environment. And somebody challenged me on that before about the word professional. They said it's oppressive. I said, if it's oppressive, fair enough. I can understand the point. But you still have to be professional. How about that? And when we talk about professionalism, it's how you interpret professionalism as well. My interpretation of professionalism is delivering, doing a job I'm contracted to do, making sure I'm best in class in what I do, being courteous, cordial, and polite, professionalism. So when they start talking about oppression and everything, I understand, because the word professional also denotes that it denotes, if used and weaponized, it could also denote an oppressive form of stifling people's growth. Because remember, professionalism to an extent is also subjective. So I accept that. But let us use pragmatic approach here. Let us temper ourselves. There are things that happen in the news that you don't have to talk about. Why are you talking about these things? Tell me why. You're not speaking to like-minded people. You already know that certain people in the workplace are mad. Committedly mad. And committed to misunderstanding black women. Committed. So why would you even allow yourself to engage and participate and be flogged? Why? I can't help you here, my dear. I can't. Because life has taught us. Social media has taught us. So why do you think that you can? I don't get it. Okay, I'm going to leave it there and say a word is enough for the wise. That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to say about that. I'm hoping you learn from this, because there's a learning lesson in this that you have to learn. And because you hadn't learnt it before, because this is not the first time that you've had to learn the lesson, particularly here. This is just the first time that you have been made to feel so uncomfortable that you've had to confront yourself. This is the first time. So now that you're confronting yourself, your next move is your decision. Not mine, not hers, not his, it's yours. Be invested in protecting yourself as a black woman, because in the office, you are responsible for protecting yourself. Be cognizant of the need to center yourself when you are dealing with work. If we understand oppression and the construct of the workplace and the committed nature of oppressing black women in the workplace, then you have to manage yourself accordingly. Every week I come here to give you the tools. I don't come here and read off a script. I don't come here and I show. So if you choose not to learn that, you are now feeling. And you must take this learning lesson, because if you do not, it will happen again. And it will continue to happen. And it could literally have a detrimental effect on your career. So please, please, please learn from this. Right, my fellow queens. I want you guys, I'm gonna say I was about to set some homework. I said on my Instagram stories that it's really important that you guys watch Ready to Love. Ready to Love is, I believe it's on the OWN network, it's owned by Oprah, obviously owned. And Ready to Love is basically chartering, I think it's a 10 to 15 black men and women who are single, and seeing if they're ready to love. And I love it. It's very interesting. And in order for me to talk about a couple of topics, I need you guys to watch it. So I know they do like some episodes are on YouTube. So if you type in Ready to Love and watch the latest season, I can't remember what season we're on. I think we may be on season 3 or 4 maybe. I don't know. But please go and have a watch. Also as well, big shout out to my homie, and I call her my homie because she's my homie in my head, Miss Issa Rae. Insecure's back. We're on episode 4 and I'm so excited. I'll be watching it tonight as I'm editing this podcast. Big shout out to Zeus Network. Zeus Network is an American network, black created, black owned. I think Ray J has invested, Ray J and his wife Princess Love have invested in Zeus. But I basically have subscribed to Zeus because I got an email from Netflix telling me, we miss you, come back. Is it $11.99? They're mad. I'm not paying $11.99. You must be out of your damn mind. Must be out of your damn mind. So I decided that I would subscribe to Zeus. So I pay, I think it's like £5 to £6 or something like that. £5.99 or £6, one of them, every month. And I'm about to watch the interview with Rolling Ray and Bobby Lights. Me, I love to laugh. And the shade, honey. Oh, the reads, honey. But what makes me feel so good is that Zeus Network is black created, black owned, with black content. And it's available online as well. So you can literally just download it, or you go on and you sign up to it online. And you can watch the various programs that they've got on there. So yeah, I wanted to shout them out. For all my black queens, I need to recommend a foundation. I know this sounds strange because I don't really talk about makeup on the podcast. But for those of us who wear foundation, I've discovered a foundation that my face loves, and it's just so light. And it's by NARS, and it's the Soft Matte Complete Foundation. It's a new foundation that they've released. It's not actually available in Selfridges. It is available online on Boots website, and that's where I got mine anyway. And I'm the colour Deep 2 New Caledonia. I was Macau in their other type of foundations, but for this one, I am New Caledonia, I think it is. And the foundation is absolutely beautiful. It's flawless. The packaging is amazing. So I wanted to shout it out because you guys know I'm always putting you on. Hashtag Toya plugs me. To that end, NARS is not a black created or black owned makeup brand, but Fenty Beauty is. So I'm going to balance that by saying a big shout out to Rihanna for the Fenty line, because I feel like what Rihanna has done is single-handedly revolutionized makeup in the beauty industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar and pound industry of which black women contribute to significantly. And we have seen makeup brands open up their options in terms of color ranges. As black women, we have struggled with finding and matching to our colour, and I think Rihanna came in and shut the game down and set the trend, and it's a trend now where beauty brands now are advertising all their different colour ranges that we've been begging for. And it took a black woman to come in and single-handedly clean up the beauty industry, include us, involve us, be cost effective, and to centre black women, and we love to see it. So big shout out to Rihanna, much love. I recognise that you're on this beauty thing, you're on this savage thing, and the music, we are waiting for the album. We are just waiting here. We are waiting. But yeah, I wanted to shout Rihanna out. Lastly, I am going to also say that I am going to be doing a podcast episode called The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill / The Miseducation of Black Women. Those of you who know Lauryn Hill, she is a superstar. I am a huge fan of Lauryn Hill, as was my late father, who absolutely adored her. Her voice is amazing, and my dad used to love her voice so much. Like, literally, he would just, if he heard a song by her, he would literally just stand still, just listening. And I want to talk about Lauryn Hill, and the context in which I talk about it will make sense for the podcast. But for those of you who have not listened to The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, please can I encourage you to listen to the album. Even if you can't listen to the whole album, 1 or 2 songs. Let's come here and talk about it. Now, I would like to say that I'm going to I'd like to say that I'm going to have this conversation about the miseducation of Lauryn Hill, the miseducation of black women, next week's episode. But the thing is with my ancestors, when I say this is what I'm going to do, the ancestors will basically show me what they want me to talk about. So go ahead and listen to it. I will obviously do the treatment for that episode, and when I am led by the ancestors to have that conversation, we are going to have it, knowing that you guys would have had to listen to a couple of the songs from that album or listen to the entire album, but we will come back here and have the conversation. This episode has been very important for me to deliver, and I hope that it resonates with someone. I hope that the lessons and the messaging has come through. That is my wish. And it's my wish for every episode, that if it changes the course of someone's career for the better, for the positive, that warms my heart. If it allows you to have another school of thought, that warms my heart. If it shakes the foundation in which you sit in to cause you to think about certain things, again, that is a win. But more importantly, I just want you to take away what you need to and positively put them into action in your life and in your career. That's all I would ask. I'm going to see you guys next week, because we do it every Tuesday, a brand new episode, and we are galloping to the end of the year. The way we're reaching it, we're galloping there. Yes, honey, 2021 has been a learning a vibe. 2022 is clean up season, honey. Clean up. We're coming to take the bag, carry the bag. We're coming to literally take over. As black women, we're coming to change our destiny for the good. Yes, that's what we're here for. Anyway, guys and girls, my queens, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for staying loyal. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for opening your minds and coming here with an open mind each and every week. I salute you. I appreciate you. And I adore us, because we are beautiful black queens. Yes, we are. If you want to follow me on social media, my personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. The Instagram page for the podcast is Toya_Talks. If you would like to follow me on TikTok, it's Toya Washington, all one word. Snapchat, Toya Washington, all one word. If you would like to see what's happening with Toya Talks, then go ahead and have a look on the website, toyatalks.com. Of course, you know the website also houses all the masterclasses, which are useful, practical tools. Go ahead and have a look. And if you are interested, make sure you purchase one of those masterclasses. Keep your eyes peeled. We have some exciting things coming. You see Toya Talks, we've got something. There's something that's cooking, eh? When the pot is ready to be served, I'm just going to tell you, be quick. Be quick. Because if you blink, it may disappear. Yeah. If you have a if you have a work-related or a life dilemma, email hello@toyatalks.com. We'll come together here. We'll talk about it. And I will do my very best to give you the best advice I can. If you would like me to come into your organisation and deliver a Toya Talks, maybe it's a racial equality training, maybe it's a conversation about what diversity actually means, talking about racism, talking about pertinent issues that affect black women in the workplace, I can be booked. Go ahead, go on the website, have a look, and email hello@toyatalks.com. I am going to leave it there. I'm going to tell you guys that my Spotify playlist is lit and it's open. It's on Spotify. Just go Toy Washington. It should come up. Because everyone's always talking about my playlist, but it is litty though. I'm not even gonna lie. Anyway, let me go. I'm gonna go. But thank you guys so much. I'm wishing you a great week. Wishing you a great month, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. My name is Toy Washington, and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.